A ruthless bounty hunter comes to town to collect the body of a wanted criminal, but his older brother has better ideas when he needs that body to fulfill a family promise. We're going to talk about this latest indie offering from Ryan George in A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1. See you in 3. And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1 by Ryan George on Kickstarter. This issue follows an infamous bounty hunter when his latest catch is disputed by the deceased's older brother. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Your attention is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to hit the bell for notification. And make sure you stay tuned to the end for the review, score, and final rating. So let's get into the issue. First, let's talk about the credits. A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1 is written by Ryan George. Art and cover by Bobby Bryce. Colors by Marta Gasparoni. Letters by Marco Della Verde. So what happens in this issue? We're dropped into the middle of the Old West in the 1800s, and we find out through a flashback that a notorious criminal has been gunned down by the sheriff and his posse. The twist on this scenario is that the sheriff is the criminal's older brother, who has since turned his life around and devoted his life to fighting crime instead of committing crime. So there you have a layer of drama that's above and beyond standard good guys, bad guys in the Old West. The older brother is torn up about the situation, and he is determined to make good on his promise to his now deceased mother to make sure that his little brother, if he can't turn him around, is buried alongside his mother as a form of bringing the family back together in the afterlife, if you want to look at it that way. Enter the Ceaseless Reaper, a notorious bounty hunter in the area who comes to claim the body of the younger brother, a gentleman by the name of Ambush Dunn. Ambush is his nickname. Despite all their efforts to stop the bounty hunter from claiming the body, he gets away, returns it to the town where the bounty is located, and then he buys back the body to take it to a mysterious part of the nearby woods to fulfill a secondary promise that is also a ritual. Won't spoil too much about the connection there, but let's say the bounty hunter and the deceased have a connection that goes back years, as well as a connection to the sheriff, although he doesn't realize it at the time. So there's a nice little twist at the end, and it kind of casts the story in a completely different light that makes it more enjoyable than you would have suspected just from the onset. So let's talk about what we liked about A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1. It is a very classic Old West sort of lone stranger type of Western, very much in the same vein as Pale Rider and a lot of the similar movies that would be starring Clint Eastwood as an example. You get a lot of that same tone of this dominating force of this individual who comes to town that nobody wants to mess with. He deals with a bunch of characters. Some of them are good people, but in tough spots. Others are just very unsavory, corrupt characters, from the criminals that are parts of a posse to the local constabulary to the mayor, who is part of the town that wants the bounty, a town called Newtown, oddly enough. So you get a lot of the same Old West type of tropes that you would get from a classic spaghetti Western Clint Eastwood type of film. However, Ryan George goes that extra mile by adding in the twist of the familial connection between the sheriff and the criminal who was eventually gunned down, and then adding a twist in a connection from their background and history through the connection in between the sheriff and the brother and the Ceaseless Reaper that you don't find out to the end, but it's in a very interesting and makes sense kind of twist that works really well in that type of genre of storytelling. It's not quite supernatural, but there's this sort of ethereal element to it that makes it very engaging and very kind of interesting that you could see it on the big screen in a big budget kind of film. It's not mystical or supernatural, but there's a spiritual quality to the storytelling that makes it that gives it an extra layer of atmosphere that's very engaging and very detailed and very entertaining. What didn't we like about the issue? Not much, honestly. From a scripting perspective, we'll talk about the art in a minute. But from a scripting perspective, it really is really well done. It's solid. The flashbacks work well. The twists and turns are interesting. The character development is on point. The dialogue is good. There are one or two spots where maybe the dialogue feels a little too modern. There might be one or two points where the vernacular, just bits of slang that they use, feels a little bit too 20th century versus 19th century, which is where this is placed. But that's sort of a matter of preference, and those are few and far between. But you get them once in a while, and it pulls you out just for that moment. But otherwise speaking, this is solid. It's dead on point from start to finish. Regarding the art, so let's switch gears to talk about the art a little bit. It's good. It's not fantastic, but it is very good. There are a few spots where the backgrounds and the textures of the settings and the surrounding areas feel very filtered and very digitally enhanced, which is fine. That's what you want to go with. But then the characters are done with pencils and inks that feel very sharp. So there's a little bit of a discontinuity between some of the background elements and the character elements. Plus, the coloring is good. The palette selection is very good, but there are one or two spots where the shading and the blending of the colors and the highlights feels a little digital, and you can see that. It's not bad, but there's a disconnect between the background and the foreground with the characters that makes it feel a little bit off, a little bit digital. But generally speaking, the art is good. It's not fantastic, but it's very good. So, final thoughts. What did we think about A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1 from Ryan George? It's an interesting story. It's a classic old Western type of story, but there's a spiritual element that almost makes it feel supernatural. So it gives it a nice little twist. The plot developments also add in some twists that make it a little bit more a little bit more complex than the standard Western film with bad guys, good guys, and bounty hunters, or people who are in that in-between space. So overall, entertaining read. Definitely recommend you pick it up. And therefore, we're going to give A Debt to the Ceaseless Reaper #1 from Ryan George on Kickstarter. This is where you can find it. A solid, you know what? Let's bring it up. Let's give it a 9 out of 10. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you want to hear more reviews just like this one, please stay tuned. Please subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned and wait for the link to the next video.